Hi guys, so today I'm going to show you how to make this little beaded Santa hat. You can use these as a perfect Christmas gift, and you can use them to make, earrings or a brooch or even a necklace. So to start off with, you're going to need a needle and thread. This is just a beading needle, I think it's a size 12. And I'm just using a Nymo D thread, and then I've got some Delica beads in white and silver lined red. If you don't have Delicas, you can use other seed beads, but it won't look the same. You'll get a little bit of a different pat finish on it, if that kind of makes sense. Alright, so to start off with, you're going to need to pick up 8 seed beads on your needle, the white ones, if that wasn't already obvious. Alright, so then you're going to slide them down to the end of your thread, leaving a tail of about 5 to 10 centimeters, just so you have something to hold on to and they don't all slide off the end. I sort of like to loop them over my finger so I have good tension like that when I'm starting off. Alright, then we're going to do a second row. So we're just using a peyote stitch to do this. If you don't know what peyote stitch is, you can go look at one of my other videos which will teach you how to do peyote. I'll leave a link in the description. Alright, so starting off, we're just going to skip a bead and go through the next. You can make this using brick stitch as well if you're more comfortable with that, but I just prefer to use peyote. I think it goes a little bit faster. Alright, so I'm just trying to make sure that's still in frame there. Oh, and I'm off camera again. Okay, so this first row is always the trickiest. So basically it's going to continue going down the first row. Well, I think it's actually technically the third, depending on how you like to count them. I always just call it the first. Alright, there we go. Then we're going to do one white bead in the next row. And then from here on out, we're going to be mostly using our red beads. Let me just shuffle around. Alright, now here we're going to do our first decrease. Now I find the simplest way to do this is to just go in between these two beads here. If that makes more focus. And you can kind of see it. And just pick up that little bit of thread there. And pull through. And then just keep going back. There are other ways to do this. This is just how I find it the easiest way to do, and just sort of keep my momentum up. It can, or however, make it so these sort of slip out of place a little bit, but don't worry about that. We can go back and fix them at the end when we're tying our thread in. And oops, I just made it worse accidentally. Also, if you do notice your beads slipping around a lot, make sure your thread is nice and tight, because that'll help too. My threads are going out of the way again. Okay, now it's doing our next row in red. Alright, now here we need to do another decrease, just exactly the same way as we did before. Just going to whip around that little bit of thread. And then just go back up into our work. just continue on with the red again. Alright, our next row. Oops, I did not mean to do that. Don't need to go through. Oh, hang on. Nope, I'm going printed. Okay. Sorry, that's the wrong spot for that bead. Let me just untangle that one. Alright, so what we need to do here is go, so normally we would just keep going. If you're doing an even count pair usage, you just keep going around, but because we're doing this a little bit freeform, I'm going to go through that red bead there, and oh, my camera will focus. It's not very good today. Yeah, so just through that red bead there. Just ignore those white beads there, we'll go back and make sure they're lying in the right spot later. And then we're just going to go back up and then through those two. There we go. Because this is a bit of an irregular peyote stitch, you'll need to go through like 2 beads at once on occasion. So just make sure that your pattern is, we're holding true and you're not accidentally getting things out of alignment by adding beads in the wrong spot. I have done that. It's a nightmare to undo. Alright, so we're going to add next row. But yeah, no, see here? I'm coming out of this bead here, but I need to be down here to add the next bead. Just going to go through a bead, so I'm in the right spot. And I'm flipping all over the place again. Alright. Alright, next row. So we're just going to keep building it up and making sure we get that sort of distinctive pointy Santa hat look. Alright, so in the next row we're doing a decrease again. So this one's a little bit different. How we're going to do this one, because we're coming out of this bead here, I'm just going to go down into that one there, if you can see that. My camera is not good at focusing at the moment. Alright, so we're just in this bead here, and then we're going to go back up, look through that one there. Make sure I'm not sewing my tail in. Okay. And then we're just going to pick up another bead and keep going. These are great because they're very quick to make compared to a lot of other beading projects, and they look amazing. And this sort of work you can do pretty much any design you can think of. If you go online, you can find pattern paper for peyote, and then you can make up your own designs. Alright, next row. Now remember, this one is going to be a decrease, so we're not going back through that bead there. Just going through this one here. And then we're just going to go back up and do there. Row, we're getting very close to finishing off. Woohoo! Alright. Make sure you don't get your thread looped around like that and then try and keep sewing. It is also a nightmare to undo. Voice of experience, unfortunately. so we're doing another decrease here. We just go looping around through the gap between those beads again, same way I showed you earlier, and then just back up. And then we're going to start on the little bowl on top of the hat. This bit here. Yep, there we go. A little bit hard to see against this background. Okay, so first off, for the bubble we just need a white bead and back up one row. And moving things around again, that's not good. Okay, and here we need to do another decrease. We're not adding a bead here. We're going to go through that, catch that thread between there, and then back up into our white bead. So we're coming out this white bead here. And then you need to pick up 2 seed beads at the same time and go back through that white bead. Make sure you don't go through the red bead as well, we're just going through the white one. There we go. We're not making things shake all over the place. Oop, there we go. Okay, I'll get used to that eventually. Really need a higher stand, it's a little bit too close and I keep hitting it. Okay, so then we're going to add another white bead up here, and then once again we're going to pick up 2 seed beads. So this is basically a peyote increase, if anyone has done that before. Pretty simple, but it's just going to give us that little offset rounded shape for our little bubble on our Santa hat. Alright, so again we're going to do a loop around here so we can go back up and through that white bead. This does tend to get a little bit loose, just make sure you're, if you can see that, just make sure you're holding it firmly in place, and with the next bit we'll make sure it all locks in together. So now we're just picking up 1 seed bead and going through. Alright, now before you move on, just make sure you pull it as tight as you can and all the beads are lying roughly where you want them to be. Mine's still a little bit lopsided, but that'll fix itself in a second. So I'm just going to go down through that white one there, and this light one, and then this red one under the first white one we did. And then I'm going to pull tight and make sure my thread isn't looped around my beadwork, because that won't end well. There we go, it looks much better now. You can go back up again if you want to, just give it a little bit more structure, but if you fit it with the lit beads a little bit, it should end up lying pretty flat and good. So now I just need to finish it off. I'm just going to go back through that red there. So there's a couple ways to finish this off. You can tie off your thread and knot it into the beadwork, but for this little work I prefer just to sew it through a bit and make sure all the beads are nice and tight, and then it will brown on itself and that won't come loose very easily. But what I am going to do too, because these beads here are still not quite, my camera's not focusing again, not quite sitting right, I'm just going to work my way back down to them and make sure they're pulled tight into the right spot by going through them again. And let me just fix this up because I've got a knot in my thread. Ooh. Please don't be too annoying. Alright, so I finally fixed my knot. I'm just going to cut off the end of my thread here, so you can see that there it's gone really sort of wispy and separated, and that makes it much more prone to knotting, which is not much fun. So I'm just going to cut off that section since I've got more than enough thread to work with before I go back in to finish off the piece. Right, what's coming out of down there. Alright, so I'm just going to work my way down here. Yep, is that where I'm meant to be? Right next spot. Oh, hang on, it's pulling wrong. Let me just go back for a second. Yep, I am in the wrong spot. Okay, I was trying to make too big of a leap at once. Back into that bead, and then into that one. So what I'm doing here is just working my way back down to the white section at the bottom, so I can go through it and make sure everything is nice and secure, as well as that first row, because this thread here isn't secured off. And if I go back in here, and just sew through that first row there again. It'll make sure it's nice and tight, and I won't need to go back in and to tie off that thread as well. Just make my life a little bit easier. Less work is always nice. Alright, that one. Alright, now I'm just going to work my way down. To get to that bottom end and fix up those other white beads. Alright, so to fix these up, I'm just going to make sure I come through that white bead there. If that'll focus. There we go. Okay. Then I'm going to go up through that bottom one there. Then through the top one. And then I'm going to go back through that middle bead there. And this should secure them in place pretty nicely. There we go. So now I'm going to work my way back down to the other end, do another pass through just to give that row down the bottom there some more stabilization, make sure it won't pull out on accident, which unfortunately can happen, and then you have to go back and try and fix the whole thing, which is very annoying, of course. But yeah, see, if I pull this bead here, it's just going to come out, so we're going to make sure we go through that again and make sure that's not going to happen, because that won't be of much use to anyone, particularly if you're giving this away to someone. My thread's got a bit tangled again. Yeah, close enough. There's still a little bit of a knot in it, but it'll fit through our beads, so I'm just going to ignore it for now because I'm almost finished. And I don't want to go around trying to undo it again. Alright, so just to finish it off and make sure it's all tight in place, I'm just going to go through and do a couple of loops, if that makes sense, in the piece. So back down to here, do this white bead there, just sort of halfway in-ish, and then I'm going to go up through that red bead, sort of turn my thread around and loop it back, then through that white one there again. If it'll focus for me. My camera is being very uncooperative today. There we go. And then back up through this bead again. And that's it. That should hold shape really nicely now. So all we need to do now is just chop off our threads here. Just try and do it as close as you can to the piece. Just make sure you don't accidentally cut any other thread you're not supposed to. There we go. So I might show you how to make these into a pair of earrings. Look at my other one as well. Just have to go find my earring components because they are somewhere. Hang on. Alright, so to turn these into earrings, you're going to need earring hooks and some very little jump rings and pliers. I prefer to use 2 pairs just because I find that a bit easier. You can do it with one, but it does get a little bit fiddlier. Alright, so let me just line it properly. First thing I need to do is just open the seam of our jump ring. If you can see that, they are very little, these ones. Now, when you're doing this, you've got to be very careful that your, and I'm back camera again, that your jump rings are thin enough, because if we're just going to try and put them through this bead on the top here, and if they're too thick, you will end up breaking that bead and all your work will be wasted, which is not what we want to happen. Alright, so we're just going to put it through that very bead in the very top there. There we go. If I can get it to focus properly again. I need a better camera. There we go. Okay, so you can put that very top bit there, and then add your jump ring, your earring hook on, and then you're just going to close your jump ring back up. That's all there is to it. It's pretty simple, really. And I'll leave it there so you guys can see it. There we go, and just do the second one. Hang on, let me just line it up properly. There we go. Just open your jump ring, put it through your top bead there. It will sometimes push these other beads out of the way a little bit when you do that, but just fiddle with it and make sure, as long as it doesn't look, you know, isn't pushing them horrendously out of the way, it's fine. You can still see a little ball there even if these ones are slightly pushed apart. Alright, add our earring hook on. And close it up. That's all there is to it. You've got a little pair of Santa hat earrings. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please like and subscribe if you'd like to see more. Bye!